Welcome into the Blurred Wire, everybody. Today we are talking about something that just dropped, and that is the Aquaman trailer. And so, as DC's had a bit of a hard year, to say DC's had a hard year would be an understatement. DC's had a terrible year. Warner Bros. Studios has had a pretty terrible year. They've lost a lot of money from their DC projects. And even Barbie, I don't know. I think Barbie is enough to make up for all those losses, but we'll see. But they went ahead and they're moving forward with their next project, and that is Aquaman. Aquaman and the Last Kingdom. And so this one looks like it's going to pick up right where the second one left off. This is going to pick up where the first one left off. And the first one was actually one of my favorite DC movies until Blue Beetle came out. I still think it's a strong number 2. I think if you remove some of the campy jokes, it had a very strong plot, cohesive, it made sense. I thought it was one of the stronger DC films, and I actually understood why it grossed over $1 billion. Aquaman 2 is not going to gross over $1 billion, just based upon the way DC is headed. However, it looks like they're kind of building on the same plot again from the first Aquaman. And they had that end credit scene in Aquaman ready to move into the next one. And it made sense. I guess I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to get at. It's like Aquaman, like as a DC Comics character, Aquaman doesn't really have like a sprawling rogues gallery. Like for Batman, you can name a different villain for him. Like for every finger on your hand and even toes on your feet. Like Spider-Man has an incredibly diverse rogues gallery of just villains. But when you think of even popular heroes like Captain America, really doesn't have that strong of a rogue gallery. It's just Red Skull. And that's kind of it. You know, there's no like Red Skull, maybe Crossbones, but Crossbones has fought so many other people, and like he's not even very well known. You know, you compare it to Spider-Man, you got Doc Ock, Goblin, Venom. You know, some of these characters, they have so many different villains in their rogue galleries. Batman, Joker, Riddler, Penguin, you could just go on and on and on. Aquaman, there's really only 2. Orm, Ocean Master, who they did in the first one, and Black Manta, who they also did in the first one. And I think it was very clever the way that they did them, because, you know, when you have a movie, sometimes it's nice to put 2 villains in one, if possible. You know, like I really love the way they did Black Panther, because they did all 3 of Black Panther's main villains in one movie. M'Baku, Ulysses Claw, and Killmonger. And they had them all working. They weren't necessarily like all teamed up to fight Black Panther either. It was kind of like they were all characters who were adversaries of Black Panther, but still had their own agendas and had their own reasonings. And so they didn't always like intersect, you know, in a way that made sense, I guess. So in this one, it kind of feels like they're just going to kind of rehash. Excuse me. In this one, it feels like they're just going to kind of rehash what happened in the first one, and that is Black Manta got defeated by Aquaman. But I'm like, at the end of that movie, I was not thinking like, I need to see Black Manta come back, or I'm really excited to see Black Manta come back. Just really not. Like, to me, he got enough screen time, we got to see him build a suit, and then we saw him get defeated. It made sense. He's a secondary villain. To me, he's the kind of guy that would come back in a big team-up movie where a guy is bringing all these characters against the Justice League, and he's taught them their weaknesses, you know, like a Tower of Babel type of thing. So to make this whole movie pin around Black Manta being the villain, I don't know if that's strong enough to really support it. I think they're probably going to focus more on the relationship between Orm and Aquaman and let that kind of carry the movie, which is interesting how they're exploring that. And then they're just going to have Black Manta be the villain. So it kind of feels like, I don't know if I would say like a repeat of the first movie, but, you know, it's like there's not really new ground being broken here. You know what I mean? Black Manta still hates Aquaman. He hated him in the first one, and he hates him in this one. And now we're going to see him do more stuff to prove how much he hates him. I guess this time he's going to use this mystical black trident, which from focus groups, some people say they like, some people say they didn't. And I'm not trying to talk negative about the trailer. I guess I'm just trying to pace expectations. So many things with DC, the trailers have been good, but it just kind of fell apart. So let's talk about the good and what I liked about the trailer. It looked like it's going to be the same vein as Aquaman. Aquaman was funny. in some parts. Again, I hope they stay away from the campiness, but doesn't really look like they're going to do that from the trailers. They're going to bring back some of the same mistakes from the first one. So, whatever. Um, and just, I was excited to see Black Manta wielding the Black Trident, and it makes sense. And we'll see him and all the destruction that he's going to try to cause. I don't know. It just kind of feels like Black Manta's done. Like he doesn't. I would almost prefer to see a villain that challenges Aquaman a little bit more. We know that Aquaman created this villain, and like at one point in the trailer, Orm looks over to Aquaman and says, "Like I can't believe you let this happen." And I'm not exactly sure what he means, but if he means like let this happen by like letting Black Manta's dad die, well, Orm is the one that gave him the weapons to kill Aquaman. So, like, I don't know why Orm would be saying that. But again, I guess Orm is going to kind of be the good guy here because, again, Orm's plan was not to destroy Atlantis. His plan was to destroy the surface world. So if Black Manta is like, well, I'm just going to destroy Atlantis because that's where Aquaman reigns now, it makes sense why Orm would come over to Aquaman's side. So, like I said, it just feels like I could use a new villain. But maybe this is good for the DC, get everyone who invested heavily in seeing the first Aquaman, maybe entice them enough to come back. I know I'm definitely still going to go see it in theaters. I think Yaha Abdul-Mateen is going to do a good job. He did a good job in the first movie. I think that's going to continue in this one. I'm trying to think of anything that really stood out during the trailer. Anything to break it down, really. But like I said, I think the Black Trident, even like the idea of the Black Trident, it's not really in the comics. It's not really an Aquaman comic thing. I think DC is just adapting that for their movie because they need to give Black Manta a upgrade because Aquaman beat him while Aquaman just had his mom's trident. Now he's got Poseidon's trident. So now Black Manta needs to upgrade in order to be able to beat him. So overall, I think it should be an enjoyable film. It's a shame because I think people would have liked it and watched it a lot more if it had come out sooner, before DC's demise. I'm surprised that it took them this long to do this one based upon the success of Aquaman. Like you would think, for example, like Shazam came out in 2019 and then they got the next Shazam done by 2023, which again is not that much of a difference, but Shazam wasn't as successful as Aquaman, and it still came out first. The second one still got greenlit first. With Aquaman being so successful, probably would have thought that DC would have greenlit the sequel and start working on it almost immediately once it crossed $1 billion, and you would think it would have come out a little bit earlier. But again, the pandemic changed everything. I think everything that Amber Heard's been going through changed everything a little bit there too. But yeah, so that's the breakdown for the trailer. You didn't really see any new ground being broken in it, and I think I had already read a plot synopsis, so I could pretty much tell what was going to go on in the trailer. Basically, Black Manta is going to find the Black Trident and use it to try and destroy Atlantis with its dark magic, and Aquaman and Orm are going to have to team up in order to defeat him. Now, it's unclear to know exactly how Orm's going to help or why Aquaman needs Orm, and we don't really know how Black Manta is going to find the Black Trident. Thinking that's where Randall Park's character, Dr. Sue, is going to come into play, unwittingly helping the destruction of Atlantis. And I think, I don't think Black Manta's goal of destroying Atlantis, he doesn't think it's going to affect the surface world, but he doesn't realize like it's going to cause an ecological disaster. And even if it does, he probably doesn't care. But again, it feels like I could have used a new villain, just because it's like, I get that he killed that, your dad died and it was kind of his fault, but like how many ways are you going to express how much you hate him? It just, I don't know. I think after a little bit, it's going to kind of run dry, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. But it's the sequel to the movie. We'll see it coming out soon. And I guess let me know what you think. I'll drop a link to the trailer. And yeah, let me know what you guys think and if you're excited for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.